Your whole business is based off biohacking.
It appears that way. Yeah.
Women were left out of research till 1996.
They weren't required to be in research.
Have you done any extended fasts?
I've done a 7-day and I've done a 3-day.
Wow.
I end up having like a grand mal seizure, like sucked me into this black hole. My husband's like standing there with my kids over me. He's like, do you know what just happened?
Yeah. Welcome to XTRAordinary, the most extraordinary podcast in the world. Today we have Lauren Berlingeri, the CEO of HigherDOSE.
Co-CEO.
Co-CEO. Co-founder and co-CEO of HigherDOSE.
Got to give credit to the other co-CEO.
Yeah, for sure. She's the best. Katie Caps,
let's go.
So let's just go right back to biohacking and 23andMe though.
Yeah.
Your whole business is based off biohacking or like wellness.
It appears that way. Yeah. It didn't originally start that way. Originally, I just discovered the infrared sauna when I was working at my last wellness startup and was blown away by the efficacy, the benefits, didn't understand why everyone wasn't doing an infrared sauna. And I've lived around the world modeling before. And, you know, in all the cultures and places that I lived, everyone did sauna. Sauna is such a part of the community there, the culture. It's been around for centuries. So when I first moved to New York and I couldn't find a good sauna, it was like crazy to me, you know, like you'd go get the highest gym membership and the saunas didn't even get hot. This is like 15 years ago. So when I discovered the infrared sauna, I was just like blown away. The first time in my life, I felt calm and connected. I slept through the night. My skin was glowing. I just like couldn't believe that everyone in New York City wasn't doing the infrared sauna. And then when I researched it and I was like, oh, NASA created this. Oh, it's so extremely safe that they use the technology in baby incubators as its life force. Oh, it detoxes 7 times more than traditional sweating. It pulls heavy metals, radiation out of the body. Oh, it's like good for downing cortisol and relieving stress. It's like too good to be true. I just knew I needed to start my company around infrared saunas.
Legitimate question. What is the difference between a regular sauna? Like, okay, so there's steam room and sauna, right? Steam room is wet heat, where and then sauna is dry heat. But what's the difference in an infrared sauna and a regular sauna?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So traditional heat heats the body from the outside in, it heats the air. Whereas infrared is a light therapy and it heats the body from the inside out. It heats your core body temperature. So what infrared's doing is it's replicating the sun and how the sun naturally warms your body. It's an invisible light spectrum like the sun that raises core body temperature.
I feel like the sun just makes me
Well, it's without the harmful UV rays.
Okay, good.
But
so it's only the sunburn.
But it's cool because you get different benefits than you would with traditional heat. I love traditional saunas. I'm a big fan, but it's more of a cardiovascular workout. It's more for like endurance type of benefits. Whereas infrared's really good for detoxing 7 times more. And it's really good for downing cortisol levels, putting your body into parasympathetic state, which is rest and digest, which is also much different than the sauna.
You're using a lot of big words.
I know.
Parasympathetic.
I always try to like get so much in a short period of time. Pretty much it's rest and digest. It calms the nervous system. Whereas traditional heat does the opposite. It's like heat stressors. Also healthy for you, but just different whack of benefits that you get from, you know, the infrared. But my favorite is because it's a light therapy, you do release serotonin because your eye picks up on the invisible light spectrum in the sauna. So you're releasing happy chemicals, just like you do when you're in the sun. So you know that idea of SAD, seasonal affective disorder, lack of sun?
Yeah.
You know, you use light therapies in order to combat that by releasing happy chemicals. The infrared sauna is like ultimately this like get high, naturally release happy chemicals, like happy place. You feel euphoric afterwards.
That's why you're so happy all the time.
Well, that's why the company is called HigherDOSE. Dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, endorphins. And that's why
that's actually an acronym.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Wait, did you make up the acronym after you named the company HigherDOSE, or did you make
No, we knew that acronym before.
Okay.
And then, you know, wanted to have a company that was talking about feeling good and getting high and the way the sauna makes you feel. Then we turned into a biohacking company.
Interesting. That's dope. I like that. So your company's crushing it, doing what, 30 mil in revenue a year?
Yeah, this year we'll probably do north of 40, close to 50.
Let's go. Wow. Let's bump it up.
Yeah, and just wanted to say that we've only raised 1.2 million 7 years ago. That was to open the locations.
Okay.
You know, being 2 female founders, it's been very challenging for us to fundraise. We tried to fundraise for 2 years unsuccessfully, which is kind of crazy because now we're sort of laughing at
I bet all those VCs wish they would have.
Yep. And now we're learning that it was a true blessing because now we don't have really investors to answer to.
Yeah.
It's our company. You know, it feels still scrappy and fun and exciting. Like, I don't know if I would even love to be a part of a company where I'm managing hundreds of people. Like, we still have 15 people on our team.
Wow, legit.
Great.
Yeah. It's a very different sort of business model, but we ended up there not because we wanted to end up there. We ended up there just because it was so challenging as women to fundraise.
Yeah.
So,
well, what were some of the challenges?
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely pioneering a whole new space. Like, we still don't know what to call ourselves. Like, are we a biohacking company? Are we a longevity company? Are we consumer longevity? You know, are we holistic recovery? We're still fighting with that. And the thing is that we're 2 females, you know, biohacking, but biohacking is mainly male dominated. You know, it's mainly designed for men by men. It talks about being faster, stronger, smarter. Women don't necessarily want those things. We have different goals. And also women have sort of been left out of research until 1996 where we were required to be in research. So we have to navigate the world of bio.
Wait.
Yeah.
Women were left out of research till 1996?
They weren't required to be in research. And women were left out for multiple reasons. One is because of our hormonal cycle. Like, we have a 24-hour cycle like you guys have, and then we have a 28-day cycle, which is ultimately our periods, which were totally different at different like weeks of each month.
So you guys are harder to study.
Variables.
A lot more
so hard to study.
But
and then it's
important.
Yeah. More important.
You would think, but just so much so much easier. And then it's not ethical to test on women before they have kids.
True.
And men are just 6 times more likely to be used in studies, still to this day. So you can imagine you guys have different endocrines, different goals, different bodies. You guys thrive on stress, cortisol. We do not. So you can imagine a lot of these like biohacking things end up being quite stressful for us and can do the opposite, get our hormonal cycle out of whack. You know, blood sugar could be off, stress. So like, for example, cold plunging. I know, Teague, you got a cold plunge.
I have a cold plunge.
Let's go.
Yeah, I got the plunge.
Right?
I love plunging.
Yeah.
And you probably thrive every single time on every single time you get into the cold plunge. Crazy high. For me, certain times of the month, it could totally fuck me up. Where I like literally.
It always fucks me up, just to let you know.
But did your brain stop working? Like sometimes for like 3 hours afterwards, I'm like, oh my God.
No,
and then
opposite.
Yeah. So like if you already have like high stress and cortisol, and then your adrenals are already shot, and then you do a cold plunge as a woman, that will affect your whole hormonal cycle because that tells your body, do not have a baby.
I want to go back to fundraising and some of the challenges that you had. This is International Women's Month.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. Yeah. Is this the first? This has to be a kind of a new thing, right? International Women's Month hasn't always existed. Do you know when it started?
I actually don't know when it started.
I think this is the first. Do you know when it
because there's been
10 years? Oh, so wow. Okay.
International Women's Month versus International Women's Day. Like,
right. Day.
I know it's been a day.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got a month now. Yeah, I'm glad we got a month.
But this is really important because I want to highlight some of the 1987 Women's Month.
37 years.
Wow. Okay. Well, now all of a sudden, I think a lot more people recognize, the month. And
agreed.
I think that I want to highlight or hear about some of the challenges that you faced and like what could possibly be changed or like why you weren't able to fundraise for such a successful company.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of crazy because if you think about it, we had all the right things. We had data and proof, brand. Maybe I think the problem is that we were not serial entrepreneurs. We didn't both have like successful exits out of our like past companies. Maybe that was a problem. I don't know why they don't invest into women. Maybe it's because they think at some point we're all going to have kids and then maybe care about our kids more than we do our companies, which is absolutely false. I think women are superheroes and they have the capacity.
You have 2 kids.
I have twins. I had twins 4 years ago. And if anything, my business has just blown up since then.
Yeah, grown more.
And what was the change after 2 years that led you to raise that 1.2? And did it all come at once or did you do it over time?
So we raised 1.2 million 7 years ago. And that's when we were a location business.
Okay.
So to back it up.
Like a brick and mortar.
Brick and mortar. Yeah. I mean, we only raised 1.2 million. So you can't open that many brick and mortars with 1.2 million.
I did one of your sessions. It was like in a New York office building, like
so weird.
On like the 6th or 7th floor of like.
Are you talking about ABC Home and Carpet?
Maybe, I don't know.
ABC Home and Carpet, shout out.
Yeah, so we were really scrappy. We raised $70,000 from friends and family, and we opened up our first 2 locations with that. So it was space within a space. We like rented out a room in a wellness center and, started our first location there. That just took off. We joked that we never needed to market because we would have these like fitness influencers come in and they would take this like sexy sauna selfie naked in a sauna. So we never had to market because it just went viral from there. And then we had ABC Home and Carpet, which is also a strange partnership, approach us because they're like, we've always wanted to have infrared saunas. Like, we clearly don't know how to do this. Like, we will do your build out for you if you open up a HigherDOSE inside ABC Carpet.
Wow.
So that's was really a cool, underground kind of niche place. And that sort of created this like trend of like, where's HigherDOSE? Like, how do you get there?
Cool.
It's like so underground and cool. And then like, again, the sauna speaks so much to people that have never done it before. It's like, you feel like you've been washed away of all your sins in one session. Like Teague, you have a sauna, don't you?
Yeah.
It's like crazy, the euphoric high that you get. So again, it was just like word of mouth. And then we raised that 1.2 million off those 2 locations. And then we were able to open up like 8 more locations. And we still decided to be scrappy because we did do 1 brick and mortar. Mm-hmm. But like permitting in New York is crazy. If you're like a spa and you have showers, you have to prove that you're not a brothel.
Yeah.
It's like crazy. And you have to spend so much money.
Like, here's proof.
Exactly. So you end up like trying to get around all this permitting. And then you end up like not wanting to even open up a location because it's $1 million to open up a location.
So let's go back to, I mean, it's hard to raise as a first-time founder. You're trying to raise as a first-time founder.
Yeah, I definitely see the troubles of that. It's like, it really resonates with me. If you don't have a successful exit before, it's like no one really wants to, jump on and take that first risk. But then if you do have a successful exit, everyone's just throwing money. There's a plethora of money out there.
Yeah, it's like the chicken or the egg. What comes first? It's really challenging, but you kind of just need to get that one person that believes in you to put in some money to set the tone for the raise. And then, I feel like everyone does jump in afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Why didn't you keep going with that model that seemed to be successful and like allowed you to raise funds?
Yeah.
How'd you decide to pivot?
Yeah, that's a great question. So what ended up happening, one, to answer it quickly, COVID happened.
Okay.
But to back it up a little bit, people kept asking us to do pop-up locations and we couldn't lug around a 500-pound sauna.
Right.
So we needed to we looked up these rudimentary versions of sauna blankets. There was this place called Shape House back in LA. I don't know if you remember
I've been
that
to Shape
place.
House.
Yep. And they had these like really cheap sauna blankets that were like sourced in China that had high EMF, like bad materials. So we were partners with Clearlight, who did our saunas. They've been in the infrared game for 30 plus years. We ended up taking that really crappy version to a South Korean manufacturer who was all about quality that was making their infrared PEMF mats. And we ultimately like combined the technology to make these sauna blankets that were low EMF, low ELF, low EMF, very clean materials, past VOC standards of California. And then we also put in other technologies in there to complement the infrared, like magnetic therapy, like stones. When you heat the stones, it naturally produces infrared. So what happens was we were at these pop-up locations and people wanted to buy them. So we were like, okay, let's just do a small batch, test it out, which is what we do with everything still to this day. Test it out before you invest too much money into it. And we just would sell it to our community through our newsletter. And the sauna blankets were growing at 400% versus our locations were growing at 25%. Plus, Katie and I are like, we hate opening locations and doing permits and like MEP, like dealing with, plumbing. And like, that's just not what our expertise was.
It's a whole different business. Yeah.
It was very challenging for us. So we decided internally to pivot to, more product and sauna blankets. And then about a year and a half later, the pandemic happened and we were forced to close all 11 locations overnight.
It's a good thing that you had this like product-based kind of e-commerce business.
Yeah, it was like an acceleration versus a pivot for us.
Yeah.
And I think it would have been almost impossible to just try to start a sauna blanket business day one of pandemic, right?
Possible.
We had the relationship with the manufacturer. We already had our model. We already had the concept proven out. We already had an audience. We already had the brand and the community from the location business.
Yeah.
So we had everything that we needed in order to start a D2C business.
Perfect setup.
The brand is really sweet too. And like, I think that if I were you, I would label the brand as a longevity business. And infrared sauna is one of the type of longevity modalities.
Yep.
HigherDOSE, it's not like your sauna blanket LLC, right?
Yep.
Your HigherDOSE.
Yeah. Thank God.
Yeah. And it really could apply to a lot. I'm a big believer in longevity.
Agreed.
I think that with all the new technology that's coming out, with all the information that we know about health and wellness and dieting, that human lifespan is going to extend for a lot longer than it is today.
Agreed.
Like in 50 or 100 years, we're going to see people living to be 140, 150 years old. Do you have a goal on how long you want to live?
So this is like such a perfect setup for sort of like the difference between men and women a little bit. I do find men want to live as long as possible and women want to have quality more than anything. Like I want to feel good for the years that I am around. That being said, I do want to live a long time too as well. And I 100% agree with the longevity. I think we're consumer longevity, which is still like a whole new category.
What's that mean? Consumer longevity?
Just like consumer goods. That you're
goods
instead of like kind of going to a doctor where, you end up like paying that doctor to like help you live the longest.
Right.
We're providing consumer goods that help you
But that's a huge segment, like basically taking care of yourself through infrared sauna or cold plunge or
huge.
It's
like I think everyone needs to be doing these technologies. And, I'm a firm believer that, you can get a lot of these like amazing feelings from nature. A lot of our technology replicates nature. Like I told you, infrared in the sun, red light in the sun is the same. PEMF is like grounding. It's the same as the Earth's core frequency. These are like innate, primal feelings for the body that really work. And ultimately what we're trying to do is just down the cortisol levels and put your body into a state of healing. Because when your body goes into a state of healing, your body naturally heals itself, which we have the ability to do, but we don't when you're in fight or flight, stress, toxic load.
100%.
So our technology just helps you get into that state of healing, helps reduce toxic load so that you can be in the healing state so you can heal yourself.
For me, it's a lot less about life expectancy and more about health expectancy.
Yes.
Because what's good is it like if you're living to 150, if you can't even walk yourself.
Exactly.
So it's about what can you do now for preventative measures.
I guess I just assume that if you did live that long,
you're going to be chilling.
The majority of it would be like.
Well, a lot of people
healthy.
live that long just from, medications. I think the lifespan in it extending just because we introduce pharmaceuticals. But that's like whack-a-mole where you end up like just taking more and more and more and more because it doesn't fix the root of the problem versus it does actually quite the opposite. It sort of tricks your body to think that that thing that's causing all your health issues is not there. And then it ends up just getting more and more out of whack. So I feel like that idea of focusing on prevention and health and wellness has traditionally been about being well. But I love biohacking and longevity because it's about optimization.
Yeah.
And that need to like feel and look your best now, I think is the next movement of where we're seeing the fitness, nutrition, health and wellness industry going.
I also think it helps to prevent the problem at the source as opposed to treating a symptom.
Exactly.
It's like I've heard that 90% of illness is due to stress in our lives.
Or undigested emotions too. And I think that there's also so much to be focused around just in terms of your emotional body too, on top of your physical body. and your spiritual body too. And I think biohacking really does address that. And you'll even hear like the Peter Attias of the world, who's like one of my favorites.
Peter Thiel?
Attia.
Attia. Okay, who's that?
He's actually here in Austin. He's a Canadian physician.
Oh,
he's always on Huberman. Yeah, but he lives here in Texas. He's always on Huberman.
Okay.
But he's like clinical, reads like, you know, all of the studies and research, but he just wrote a book on longevity and he addresses his mental health and him needing to deal with his emotions and the things that probably were the root cause of his illnesses and not just A plus B equals C of like his physical body.
Right.
Which is, I think, also new that we're starting to talk about, and especially within men too, right? Like, do you guys have like a men's group or anything like that you're part of?
I just talk to myself.
Yeah.
And then I just bottle it up inside and just get stronger. That's how it works.
Because I don't know how well you guys know each other, but
we actually went to high school.
Yeah,
oh, you did?
20 years.
Okay, but like I asked you what your ethnicity it is, and then you were like, "Oh, I didn't know that." And it's like
we don't really talk about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's like, you're a human. That's it, dudes.
I think guys are just different like that. Whereas like women immediately with their communities go into like how we're feeling, and that's such a big part of feeling well and alive that I think is also missing within like the biohacking world.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the wellness club called Remedy Place?
Yeah, in LA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they have one in New York too.
Yeah, I haven't been there, but I heard it's great. The one in LA anyways. I don't know about the one in New York.
It's really dope. I've only been to the one in LA. I haven't been to the one in New York, but it reminds me a lot. It reminds me a lot of HigherDOSE. You go there and they have different treatments that you can do. They have basically a hot cold treatment. So you sit in an infrared sauna for 30 minutes or so, or however long. And then you hop in the cold plunge, and they have cold plunges that go down to 34 degrees. So it's like
amazing.
Then they have oxygen chambers. They have the lymphatic drainage.
So we're trying to take that concept into people's homes.
Right.
So
exactly.
our concept is to make biohacking accessible.
Yeah.
Right. You make it easy to use. You make it, somewhat affordable too as well. Because like, for the infrared sauna, for example, I mean, you have an infrared sauna, it's heavy, it's clunky, it's like north of $6,000. With the sauna blanket, we're just making it accessible to people.
Yeah, the blanket makes so much sense.
Right?
I have the blanket too.
Nice.
Yeah.
It was like 300, 400.
How hot does it get?
It is 700.
700.
Yeah,
okay.
we do a lot of bundling and
300, 400 in payments.
Yeah, those two payments. So 300 and 400.
But it pays for itself within a few sessions too, which is why we say we're affordable, even though like $700 sounds expensive to people. But like if you go to Shape House, it's $100 a session.
Every time. It's
exactly.
Like 7
every
times.
time. And your sauna blanket lasts forever.
Yeah.
True.
Do you do things like foot detoxes?
So the ionic foot detox bath?
Yeah.
I've pretty much tried every like form of biohacking, I feel like.
I feel like you know a lot about biohacking.
What's the definition of biohacking? Because is it just wellness for yourself? Is going to the gym biohacking? Because not everyone does that. But if you did it, you're going to last a lot longer.
It's to hack one's biology in the pursuit of optimization. I don't think biohacking sounds really nice. It doesn't really resonate with women, which is why we've been trying to find another name for it, like hacking. It's not hacking. It's like, this is a lifestyle. If you think that you're just going to like take this magic blue pill and it's...
What are some of the other names you've come up with?
Sorry?
What are some of the other names for biohacking that you've come up with?
None of them sound good. Okay. It's like bioharmony.
Okay, rough. Keep going. Maybe you should ask AI.
Because that resonates with women more. We're like trying to harmonize.
Bioharmony.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to balance.
Health.
So
harvest.
So I wanna move to a kind of a different subject here for a minute. Both Spence and I are entrepreneurs, and you're obviously an entrepreneur, but you haven't always been an entrepreneur. This is like
I actually have always been an entrepreneur.
Okay, so that was the question. That was the question.
Nice.
This is essentially the second chapter of your career, with the first being a successful modeling career.
Yeah.
But you're saying that you have been an entrepreneur through that whole time.
I mean, I'm just realizing it now. Like when I look back at when I was even younger, I would like draw on rocks and sell them house to house when I was super young.
That was your first business?
Yeah. And then,
selling rocks?
Yeah, I would sell rocks to people.
Pet rocks is actually a big business, I think.
I've heard about the gratitude rocks before where it's like, it's a nice little, what's the markup is crazy.
How old were you when you were selling rocks? I was
just interested in money. Like my family, I didn't come from a very wealthy family. My parents never gave me a freaking dollar for anything. I was like babysitting at a young age. I remember my sister was, as soon as she turned 16, we handed out resumes everywhere. And I would eat at this sub shop all the time. And I was 2 years younger than her. And I went in the day she handed out her resumes and he just offered me a job. And from there I had the keys and he thought, everyone thought I was Nick's daughter because I lived at this sub shop running it. And I'm 14 years old.
This is in Canada.
Canada, yeah.
Where in Canada?
Just outside of Toronto, a place called Hamilton, Ontario.
Okay.
Maybe the reason that you're so successful today is because your parents didn't give you any dollars growing up.
Oh, yeah, there's trauma around that.
All that trauma turned you into a $40 million company.
I'm all about trauma. I think that greatness comes from usually some form of trauma. And yeah, definitely I didn't want to be like my parents. They always struggled with money. They made bad investments. They had 4 kids. That was always the height and stress of my family upbringing was lack of money.
Hard times create strong women.
I agree. And then when I started modeling at the age of 16, I went straight to Italy after that. And
so you started modeling at 16 and went to Italy?
So I went to Italy after I graduated from high school, which is 18. I started modeling at 16 too as well.
Did you get just found by a scout or how did you get into modeling?
Yeah. And I mean, Toronto's a really thriving,
Yeah, metropolitan area.
Yeah. So I was told since I was younger that, I should be a model. I just went into an open call at Ford and signed at the age of 16. And as I finished high school and as I was working at this sub shop, I would take modeling jobs.
Nice.
I actually got one of my biggest jobs, which was for Terra Boots, but it was this pinup look where I was I'm 17 on a billboard with my butt showing in Terra Boots, a pinup girl. And there was 900 billboards across Canada. And it created this uproar, women were striking against it and they all got pulled down.
No way.
Yeah.
It was bittersweet for you because you're oh, she's 17, but that's me and I want to be up there, but don't.
I didn't really understand it at the time because I was so young, but to be sort of objectified and I think they were trying to market the men's work boots to women too as well. And that didn't resonate with women.
Was it a difficult decision for you when you were 17 to move away from your family and just be a businesswoman essentially? Or was it kind of an easy decision? Heck yeah, let me get out of here and do this.
Well, really? I feel like I was not a good businesswoman when it came to modeling. And I look back at when I was modeling and I'm damn, if I knew what I knew now, as a business owner, as a client hiring models, as someone that knows how to take care of myself now, if I knew that when I was 17, I would have been so much more successful.
Yeah.
But you're not set up with that information. I had to learn the hard way.
So then for all the young girls that are watching this, what advice would you give them?
Well, I think, thank God, the times have changed. Back when I was modeling in 2000s, it was Twiggy and, Nicole Richie and Paris Hilton were on covers being anorexic, 90 pounds soaking wet. Mm-hmm. That was in style then. So that was ultimately what you expected the models to be like. So I struggled with being thin. And then I ended up not knowing how to take care of myself. So I was Diet Coke, cigarettes, anything that would speed up my metabolism. Sure, I'll do Coke because I won't eat the next day.
Diet Coke or Coke?
Both. And diet. All the above.
Yeah. Just Diet Coke, though. Just Diet Coke.
Coke Light.
The drink. Yeah.
You're you were dieting.
So good.
Okay.
Yeah. But that ultimately led me to be a nutritionist and health coach because fast forward 15 years later of modeling, my skin was a mess. I was inflamed. I was drinking all the time. I was fucking miserable.
Damn.
And I wasn't a successful model the last 8 years because I looked like shit.
Yeah.
Thank God for Photoshop.
As we all do. Thank God for Photoshop.
Just shop that up.
But you know what was worse about it was that I was just so hard on myself because I knew I didn't look like I did in the photos. Mm-hmm. I knew I was bigger than I was. My skin was a mess. So I'd show up to these jobs being fucking miserable. right?
Yeah.
And then I'm like looking back as a client now hiring models. I'm like, what am I looking for in these models? I want like aliveness. I want like them to feel like they're enjoying what it is that they're doing. I want them to like tell a story through the photo. I don't care about your size or if you have a pimple.
Yeah.
I'll Photoshop that if I need to. But we end up like wrapping ourselves and telling ourselves these like negative self-talk and self-doubt stories, and we sabotage ourselves. Mind you, it led me to educate myself on how to take care of myself, which then ended up leading me to where I am now.
Yeah, I feel like all that struggle and trauma that you put yourself through was necessary for you to blossom until, you know, everything you are now, which is helping the world better themselves.
There's so much passion that I have behind, you know, wanting to educate and wanting to inspire, because I feel like, you know, there's no better way to live than feeling amazing, you know? And I don't think as women and men that we're really educated on how to take care of ourselves. And then you add in like the Western medical system and them like, you know, us going straight to doctors. There needs to be more health coaches. You know, there needs to be more emphasis on lifestyle before just going straight to your doctor for something.
So me and you, we see the same chiropractor, Dr. J. Ding.
He's like beyond a chiropractor.
He's way beyond a chiropractor.
He's like magic, pure magic. Mm-hmm. You found him actually, right?
Yeah.
You found him and then told Kelly, and then Kelly told me, and now I tell everybody.
Right?
That's how it works. Word of mouth is the best marketing.
Oh yeah, this guy's like not a marketer at all.
He's not.
He's like wild, but yeah, I mean,
how would you even describe him?
Well, I feel like, you know, I am this like broken toy in a toy factory, and he's like putting me back together. Yeah. It's like so weird. His Instagram's Dr. Fixio, which he just started. He literally fixes every inch of your body, realigns it so that energy, blood, everything's moving and flowing. So you're in perfect alignment and you just like feel so amazing after. Mind you, if you're at the very beginning of your health journey, I feel like there's like healing crises that sort of happen afterwards. You don't always feel amazing right after. But that's because there's like a lot of things that need to move and you can't like overnight solve things.
Maybe that's just an excuse that he messed you up.
I thought so a little bit.
It's going to take some time.
So this guy, Jay Ding, I was trying to find a chiropractor in Austin. I was like new to Austin, and I was like searching online. You know, chiropractic sessions are usually like 10 minutes.
Quick,
like,
in and out.
Quick, yeah. And I was trying to find one that would do like, it's called the Y strap, where they put the strap and then like.
Okay, I got a guy for you in Miami. I got a guy for you in Miami.
Which is like a pretty.
Why did you want that?
Just because my neck felt super compressed and like the side turn wasn't getting it. I wanted like a full spinal release.
Yeah.
But the chiropractor that I was going to wouldn't do it. He's like, I'm not trained on that move. And I was like, well, do you know anybody that is? And he goes, yeah, like there's this guy, Jay Ding.
Okay.
So I go to Jay Ding and and I call him. He's like, yeah, like I can do that move, no problem.
For sure. The Y strap?
Yeah, the Y strap.
I invented the Y strap.
So I go to Jay Ding, and my first session with him, he does full chiropractic, Y strap included. He does acupuncture. He does cupping. And I'm in there for an hour, and he like has all these crazy like wooden tools where he's like banging on you with a wooden hammer.
He literally is. He hammers your bones back into, which sounds painful, which it's not at all.
Yeah. And he was putting the acupuncture needles in me and then connecting them to electromagnets and like shocking.
Sounds like torture.
Or sometimes he does sound healing through them, like vibration. And
this guy does everything.
Sometimes he's shooting you with a laser, and like he like pulls out all these gadgets, and you're like getting hammered on your butt, and you're like, what the fuck are you doing now? And I'm like, it's the most interesting experience. Never two sessions are alike. They're always totally different. And you're always there for 2 hours, 2+ hours.
Yeah.
Bring him on the show.
Dude, I
use me as a test subject.
And it's, so I'm trying to figure out, like, I want to start a business with him. I was like, how do we harness this?
So hard.
For the people. He's just not a marketer. Like, you know, it's
hard
he's
to
a
replicate
guru.
what he does.
Impossible.
Actually. Yeah.
He's a guru though.
Yeah.
I feel like you could replicate it, but he's happy just being a sole proprietor.
Yeah.
You know, just doing his thing.
I wonder if your first chiropractor is a little sad that he lost all his business to Jay Ding, because you're never going back to that guy.
Yeah.
This guy's like...
Yeah, I mean, and you only really need to go see Jay like what, once a quarter, maybe?
Yeah, probably. Yeah, there was a time I was going like once a week. But
sounds like you should start.
It's addicting in a way.
That's a pretty rough business. He should start selling some infrared blankets.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's what
there
he should
you
do.
go.
Jump in.
Yeah,
give him
send
affiliate.
him home with something.
That's it.
Arguably, one of the most well-known current biohackers is this guy named Brian Johnson. Do you know who Brian Johnson is?
No.
Do you know Brian Johnson?
Yeah, he's the billionaire that claimed he looks so young, but he still looks kind of
old. He's not a biohacker.
Yeah.
I mean, he's looking weirder and weirder and weirder. No,
For
taking
sure,
reverse aging.
Taking thousands of pills is not biohacking. I don't really care what you say. I don't think that is. I think that he's a great marketer, and I think that's a really great way to market yourself.
Yeah,
because otherwise you're not interesting.
He claims to be reversing his, what's it called, like his like true age or something.
Yeah, but you can do that without like spending thousands and thousands of dollars. I actually truly believe that my favorite biohacks are the free ones. Mm-hmm. They're way more powerful. Like intermittent fasting is like one of the best things that you could possibly do.
Yep.
And
do you intermittent fast every day?
So again, from the perspective of women, we should fast from day 1 to 14, and then day 14 to 28 of our cycles, we should not be fasting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then that's when the hanger comes in. And
it's our progesterone tanks. Yeah. And
have you done any extended fasts?
I've done a 7-day and I've done a 3-day.
Wow. What was the 7-day fast like? I've done a 3-day, but never 7.
7-day was probably one of the hardest things of my life. It was actually the beginning of, you know, my modeling stuff. Like my skin was so bad and my hormones were so out of whack that I had to do a 7-day fast just to like jumpstart things. Because otherwise it's like thousands and thousands of dollars and you never really get to the root of the problem. Whereas fasting is so amazing because it's eating up all the senescent cells, your zombie cells, eats up all the like mucus and crap and like the pre-cancerous, pre-disease cells. And you also release so much human growth hormone. You also release so much ketones and you get so youthful and so young within 7 days. It's
a nice reset.
It's a reset.
So hardest thing you ever did, but like one of the most rewarding?
It totally fixed my like skin issues. I had candida really bad, which I think was a big problem. I was taking so much antibiotics throughout my life because I would, again, whack-a-mole, that my candida was so bad that I had like really bad acne everywhere, and a 7-day water fast like wiped out the candida.
Yeah.
Because that's what it eats first, the yeast.
Have you...
right? Not the healthy cells.
Of course.
The body's so smart, it heals itself. That's why I'm like,
agreed.
Why would you need to be taking 700 pills?
Yeah.
When you probably have like a chef eating the best quality of food and whatnot, and he's probably like out in nature getting what his body needs. Like, why would you need to do that?
Yeah.
Also, anyone that claims like the things that they're doing today are definitely going to extend their life to 150, it's like, how do you know that?
Exactly.
It seems like you can try, but these claims are a little snake oil.
Also, your like body becomes reliant on it. So like, what happens if he's not a millionaire anymore and he can't afford this regime?
Pills, yeah. I think he has a lot of money, but not everybody not everybody has a lot of money, right?
Yeah.
Talking about hard things that you've done, I really wanted to get a little insight into you being the only woman at the time to complete Navy SEAL training.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Let's hear about that. What was that like? I've always wanted to do it, but I don't know if I
think that's like every guy's like dream, but never like not gonna be able to do it. Yeah. But you've completed
Navy SEAL training. Yeah. So I had this show called Woman versus Workout. I actually got it from, a modeling casting, and they interviewed me. And at the time I just like was living in South Africa and I was like wild and free. I was like swimming with sharks. I was doing the world's highest bungee jump, like always barefoot, wild, like
let's go.
And they interviewed me and they were like, I think we're going to create a show around you. And that was, it was a men's health, women's health program from Rodale. And the concept was me tackling different workouts. It started out as workouts and escalated because I just freaking loved the challenges. That it was starting off with like, we'll do like Tough Mudders and roller derby.
You've done a Tough Mudder?
Oh yeah, I did Tough Mudders, roller derby, firefighter training. I drove a NASCAR, so I would learn how to drive a NASCAR, and I did like a NASCAR race. I never got on a motorcycle before, and I did motocross, and I was like jumping things.
Let's go.
Like it was just insane the way that it escalated, and it just became more and more and more and more because I just loved it.
Yeah.
I did extreme wakeboarding. I did a 360 on like a ramp on a wakeboard. And it's just like that determination
and adrenaline
and that drive and that like, especially if you put a camera on me, I'm like,
let's go.
yeah, I would just be so driven to succeed. And that was interesting for people to watch, that determination. And the concept was like this model trying to do Navy SEAL training. So when I did the Navy SEAL training, it was the 24-hour Hell Night with Navy SEALs. So I had to do 24 hours with them. And it was the most pain and torture I've ever been in. Mainly because you're freezing in water and you're pushed to physical limits, and then they get into your head and then try to break you down mentally. And if there wasn't cameras watching, I would have gave up for sure. I was like, for what?
Yeah.
Why would I want to do this? But the cameras there, it was like, I think it was like 4 a.m. You're soaking wet. It's so cold. You're in and out of the water and you're like spinning around on like a baseball bat. You're doing like push-ups, sit-ups. So many men quit. And
once you quit in Navy SEAL training, you're out.
You're out.
Yeah.
For sure. I mean, before you go to be a Navy SEAL, you have to complete 24-hour Hell Night.
Yeah.
Because that will wean out the weak.
Have you ever read or heard of the book Make Your Bed?
No, but I make my bed every morning.
Have you?
Let's go. No,
I haven't read this book.
I haven't read it, but I've heard.
What is it?
So it's a super short, small book, authored by Admiral William Owens. He, I think I got the name wrong, but he was a Navy SEAL and then became the trainer of the Navy SEALs, like SEAL Team 6. And the book is 10 chapters on lessons that he learned through Navy SEAL training.
That set you up for life?
Yeah, that's like basically the best guide to follow. It's like why the
Do you remember one of the like major tips that you learned?
Make your bed.
Make your
and
bed.
Make your bed every morning?
Because all Navy SEAls start the day with a task completed. And then it goes, there's obviously tons of lessons in there, like 10 major lessons. The last chapter is called Never Ring the Bell. And it talks about Hell Week for the Navy SEAls. And if you ring the bell, like if you quit during Hell Week or like the 24-hour Hell Day, you ring the bell and you're out. And they all try to encourage each other to not do it.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not an option, it becomes easy, right?
Yeah.
It's when it's cycling in your head, like, I'm going to give up. I can't do this. 6 more hours. If it's not an option to quit, then you don't. And I think that is something that I've brought to my business. It's like, we didn't fundraise, fine. Like, we're going to keep going. We're going to like prove them otherwise.
Quitting's not an option.
Quitting's not an option.
I also think that your idea of, or just the fact that you had the camera on you kept you going.
Yeah.
I think we should start a business right there. In the gym, camera's always on.
I think that's why there's mirrors, right? So you're like looking at yourself.
But maybe like it's mandatory you go live whenever you're working out.
I actually
my workouts are way better if people are watching for sure.
Yeah, it's like kind of why you do group fitness, because they like motivate you around. But you should be self-motivated. Yeah.
So next time I see you, I'm going to ask you if you've read the book.
Okay.
It's a super short book, and I almost promise that it'll become one of your favorites.
Oh, really? Nice. I love a super short, impactful book.
Yeah.
Nothing better.
100%.
So,
what would you say is harder, Navy SEAL training or being a mom of twins?
Okay, that we need a whole nother podcast.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Like literally, I have the most crazy story about my twins, the delivery, having a seizure, having a breakdown.
Wow.
Can we hear that?
I'll give you the quick version of it, but pretty much I thought being pregnant and having a baby would be the easiest thing I ever did. I did Navy SEAL training. Women have babies all the time. What are you talking about? Found out I was pregnant with twins, thought my life was over, right? Because now I need to have someone walking around with me all the time, like with a baby. And then I was told with twins, they're most likely going to come early. That home delivery that you want to have, not happening. There's going to be like 4 doctors in there. They're going to come early. You're going to have a C-section. And I was like, no, I'm not. Like, I am going to deliver naturally. Like, I'm going to prove everyone wrong. Well, I tried so hard to deliver naturally that it ended up creating complications. And my baby girl got stuck and they tried to vacuum her out and she was like jammed in there. So I had emergency C-section, take the babies out 5 weeks early. They're preemies. And she came out like mangled. Like it was like the most traumatic thing I've ever seen. And your arms are strapped to the table and you're like shaking and all you care about is the health of your children. And they just take them away. You feel like you're in this like tragic car accident and they take your babies away from you. You don't know if they're okay. I was so scared to see her for the first time that I thought I was dying and they wanted to give me like a sleeping pill. And I was like fighting through staying like awake just to like see her. I go and see her and like fast forward later, 2 weeks later, we go through all the testing. She doesn't have brain damage. She doesn't have neck injuries. Thank God. But I'm like driving 45 minutes to the NICU every day, sitting in the NICU for 2 weeks with these babies.
Wow.
And then from there, it was just like trying to keep up with breastfeeding and then like having my job and then like being sleep deprived and then like kind of relaxing with a glass of alcohol every night as a way to like just let go. And then a year into it, almost a year to the date of their delivery, which is crazy because your body holds on to trauma that it remembers. It's like a year after. I end up having like a grand mal seizure in bed with my kids where like I literally—
It's a grand mal seizure.
It's like the worst one you can have.
Yeah.
Where like I was like, I felt like the world like sucked me into this black hole. I almost bite off my tongue. I seize for 5 minutes.
Wow.
And then I like get up, like my husband's like standing there with my kids over me. He's like, do you know what just happened? And like, I don't know if you, like, I'm a control freak, right? Like Navy SEAL A-type personality. Have you ever had that feeling of like losing control over your brain?
Not really.
I don't
like
remember if it
thing.
does happen. I don't remember it.
It's the scariest thing in the world. So I'm like a new mom of these twins and these babies need me. And here I'm like, seizures don't run in my family. I didn't even know I could have a seizure.
You don't have epilepsy.
So from there on out, I think I have a brain tumor, that it's going to happen again. I'm not supposed to drive. Anyways, fast forward, and it ended up being a wake-up call for me to put myself first in terms of how I take care of myself before my kids, before my husband. It's like a non-negotiable, which is why I think I feel so passionately about like educating women on, and men, just the importance of filling your own cup up before you like go to give. Because if you don't do that, everything gets affected. Your health, your relationships, your business. It's so important. That's why I feel so passionate about biohacking. It's like a non-negotiable for
Bioharmony.
me. Bioharmony.
Yeah.
Even the airlines know that. They're like, put your mask on before
That's exactly what I was thinking.
like, listen, you,
That's
and then
exactly
you
what I was
then
thinking.
It's true, right?
Yes.
Which seems like a crazy concept, but like this is a new concept for women,
Yeah.
especially women that are like running businesses, right?
So wow, that's a lot.
Oh yeah.
Being a mother for one baby for the first time is hard enough. Then you got 2.
Yeah.
Also, you're nursing. Do moms of twins have double the milk?
No, you just try to have
You just
double
gotta
the
split the milk. Listen, baby, you already had enough. You
It's such
share.
a good question because like I was literally like attached to like a pump like 6 hours a day trying to get enough to feed my kids. And I made it to a year with twins, which is like crazy. But I wasted away to nothing. Like, you know, I think why the seizure ended up happening was a year to the date of the trauma. My body remembered that. But then I was just deprived of sleep, deprived of water, deprived of nutrition. Like I remember waking up every morning and my bones were like aching because breastfeeding, they just like take all your nutrients out of your body to give to the baby.
True.
So there was a lot of lessons in that, but I don't know if you guys have watched our show called BioHack-HERS about female biohacking.
BioHack-HERS.
Yeah,
No, I haven't.
it's about female biohacking.
On YouTube or where is it?
Yeah, on YouTube. It's like kind of like Women versus Workout, but for biohacking.
Cool.
Where can I watch Women versus Workout too?
YouTube.
YouTube? Okay.
Yeah. But just to say one thing is it's an amazing show because I learned about ways to take care of myself through the show because I did ketamine therapy for PTSD of my seizure. My kid ended up having a seizure 6 months later too, but I'll explain that later. And then also the delivery of my twins. So I did ketamine therapy for PTSD and it like game changed me.
Wow.
Really?
Supercharged therapy session, like especially for PTSD, was incredible. And in that episode, I talk about the seizure, the delivery, and how I like healed that trauma within my body.
Well, this podcast, this show, XTRAordinary, is all about talking to extraordinary people. And started out selling rocks. You had an incredible 10-year modeling career.
Yeah.
Where you were on 900 billboards.
Yeah.
You did the highest bungee jump in the world. You swam with sharks.
Yep.
And now you run a $40 million business called HigherDOSE, helping people all around the world.
Yep.
We like to learn from people that make their own rules, and you are certainly that.
Thanks.
So thanks for coming on. It's been awesome.
Thank you for having me.